The red folder hit the counter so hard the coffee sloshed, and 4 bodyguards formed a wall behind the man in the suit. "Which one is Lena Park?" he asked. His voice cut through the clatter of forks and plates. Conversations died. Chairs scraped. The regulars stared at the empty corner booth that should have held a thin old man in a pea coat, a napkin tucked under his hand like always. Ava nodded toward the pass. "That's her." Lena turned from the griddle with a spatula in her hand and pancake steam on her face. "What's going on?" The man in the suit didn't waste time. He flipped the red folder open, slid a paper across the counter. "Ms. Park, my name is Daniel Caldwell. I represent the estate of Everett Miles. He passed last night." The spatula slipped. Ava caught it. The corner booth looked wrong, like a stage without its lid. Caldwell kept talking. "He left specific instructions regarding you, this diner, and a trust worth more than everyone in this room will see in 10 lifetimes. We need to go now." "Now?" Gus, the owner, stepped out of the kitchen, wiping his hands. He smelled like bacon and worry. "She's in the middle of a breakfast rush." 4 towering men in black spread out. Customers reached for phones. Someone whispered, "What did she do?" Someone else said, "Is this a prank?" Lena untied her apron slow, hands shaking. "He was here yesterday. He ate half his pancakes, told me to put the leftovers in a box," she said, because that was what made it real. Caldwell lowered his voice but not his urgency. "He recorded a message. For you, there are things in motion. If you trust him, come with us. If you don't, his children will make sure everything he cared about gets buried by lunch." Gus touched her elbow. "Go," he said. "We'll cover your tables." Lena lifted the sugar caddy at Everett's booth out of habit. Nothing underneath. She swallowed hard, put it back, and followed the suits. The bell over the door jingled behind her like it always did, soft and ordinary. The bodyguards made sure nobody followed. 2 months earlier, the bell had jingled the same way for him. He'd shuffled in before dawn, hat too big for his head, breath fogging in the winter air. He took the corner booth because it was close to the heater. His hands shook so badly she cut his pancakes into triangles without asking. He said, 2 sugars, 1 lemon, no honey, honey lies. She hid a smile and brought hot water first to warm his fingers. He scribbled numbers on napkins while he waited, little grids and arrows. He paid in exact change and apologized for thinking so slow. The second morning, she brought the lemon before he asked. The third morning, she said, "You can tell me if you don't like the batter. Gus gets weird with cinnamon." Looked up then, really looked, like he was remembering how human faces fit together. "Thank you for seeing me," he answered. That was the thing that stuck. How he said it like it cost him something. When a contractor in neon laughed at the way he fumbled his coins, Lena put her palm on the contractor's check and said, "You're waiting now? He was here first." She didn't look at the tip line when the contractor paid. She didn't care. After that, he was there every morning. Same booth, same ritual. Same napkin scribbles that he left behind for the busboy to toss. Lena started pocketing them without thinking. Habits pile up like that. In the back of Caldwell's tinted SUV, city blocks slid by in glass reflections. The bodyguards didn't talk. Caldwell scrolled through emails like he was fighting a clock. Lena gripped the napkins crumpled in her jacket pocket, the ones from yesterday. Yesterday he'd smiled at her lemon wedge like it was a magic trick. "You're late," she had told him in a joking way, and he'd blinked at her like he was seeing her through water. "There are people who take things," he'd said, "small things that become large. I needed to make some calls." It had sounded paranoid then. It didn't now. They took an elevator up a wall of glass and steel. The law firm reception looked like a museum, all marble and art with no labels. Caldwell led her into a conference room with a window that made the city look small. Victoria Miles was already there, coiled like a python in gold. She turned, and the smile she offered didn't reach her eyes. "So this is the waitress," she said, as if it were a diagnosis. Grant Miles stood by the window, jaw tight, hands in his suit pockets like he was holding himself together. "This is absurd," he muttered, but he didn't leave. Caldwell didn't sit. He pressed a button on a remote. A screen blinked to life. Everett's face filled the room. No pea coat, no tremor. His hands were still. The camera was close enough to see the age spots on his skin. He looked straight at it like he was looking through nobody and everyone to get to a single person. "If you're hearing this, it's because Knight's caught up with me," he said. His voice didn't shake. "Victoria, Grant, you'll be angry. You will tell yourself it's about respect. It has never been about respect. It has been about control." Victoria's lips parted like she was about to interrupt the recording. She didn't. Everett went on. "Lena, you want to leave? Don't. This is the one kindness I can repay. I am Everett Charles Miles, founder of Miles Instruments, chairman until they showed me the door while smiling for the cameras." Grant stared at the carpet like it offended him. Victoria's knuckles whitened around the stem of a water glass. Every morning you made me smaller than my name so I could be a person again, Everett said to the camera. They will call you a fraud. They will say you put things in my head. You didn't. You put lemon in my tea because you noticed the bitterness. You cut my pancakes because my hands wouldn't. I left instructions. Caldwell has them. On the table, Caldwell slid the red folder toward Lena. Her name was on the tab in block letters. The envelope inside was addressed in Everett's slanted hand, for the one who refills the quiet cups. The Morning Trust is funded at $780 million, Caldwell said calmly. It will expand breakfast programs, support small diners, cover transportation for seniors, and keep a roof over St. Bridget's shelter. Ms. Park, you are the executive director. You control disbursement with a board of 3, of which you select 2. Victoria laughed. It sounded like glass breaking. Over my dead body. Over your father's explicit wishes, Caldwell corrected. There's more. Another button. Another video, grainy phone footage of Victoria and Grant in a kitchen you only saw in magazines. Everett sat at the island while Victoria pushed a paper toward him. Just sign it, she said on the screen. It's cleaner if Grant holds the proxies, less confusion, you're tired. It's a springing trust, Grant added like a lawyer even though he was. If you, God forbid, lose capacity, this protects you. Less confusion for who? Everett asked, sharp as the edge of a plate. The video spun for a second, focus struggling. Enough remained. Tone was everything. Victoria's smile on the video didn't reach her eyes either, for all of us. The recording ended. Victoria went pale. You had no right. You posed a camera in his own kitchen, Caldwell said. He had every right. Grant's control slipped. He was not lucid, Daniel. He wandered away. He left the car running at a gas station. We checked his phone and found maps to random diners in neighborhoods he didn't belong in. He needed care. He needed to be left alone to eat, Lena said, not loud, but the words crossed the table and landed. 4 bodyguards outside the glass door stiffened. A shadow moved behind them, more bodies crowding the hallway. Caldwell slid a second envelope out of the folder. Lena, he hid something in plain sight. He said you would know where to look because you keep what other people throw away. Do you have any of his napkins? Lena pulled the crumpled squares from her jacket. Numbers, arrows, random at first glance. Caldwell laid them flat. The numbers made grids. 297, 1111, SB5. SB, Caldwell said. St. Bridget. The conference room door pushed open before anyone could move. A man in a suit different from Caldwell's, flashier, oily, stepped in with his own duo of security. Ms. Park, I represent Ms. Miles and Mr. Miles. Effective immediately, we're filing to freeze all changes to the disposition and to remove you from any administrative role pending a competency review of your relationship with Mr. Miles. The room sharpened. Caldwell's bodyguards closed around the table. The other lawyer smiled, confident in paper and pressure. Caldwell didn't raise his voice. You'll lose, he said. Victoria's eyes pinned Lena. What did you say to him? Her tone dripped dismissal. What did a waitress know how to say? Lena stood, not tall. Not loud, steady. Good morning, she said. Every day when nobody else did. Silence thrummed. Eventually, Caldwell tapped the SB5 grid. If we're going to stay ahead, we move now. Ms. Park, there's a deposit box and a shelter. He staged a paper trail they won't find. He trusted you to find it. Grant stepped toward her. The nearest bodyguard raised a hand, flat and heavy in the air. Grant backed off. Victoria hissed, "This is not over." Lena didn't answer her. She followed the bodyguards. The bank vault smelled like old envelopes and money that never touched air. The manager checked IDs twice, fumbled a bit when faced with Caldwell's paperwork, then led them down a carpeted hall into a quiet room with safety boxes stacked like sleeping blocks. SB5 slid out with resistance. The manager left. Caldwell waited. Lena opened it. Inside were a watch with a cracked face, a flash drive labeled morning in block letters, a cheap ballpoint pen, and 3 letters tied with string. One addressed to her, one to Caldwell, one to no one unmarked. She broke the string with her nails. Everett's handwriting looked tired. The ink was smudged like he'd paused, and his hand had rested too heavy on the page. Lena, the first time you filled my cup without asking, I cried in a bathroom and lied to myself that it was the onions. I forgot how to be seen without handing someone a card. If you're reading this, it's because I took too long to say something that should be ordinary. Thank you. There is a key in the sugar at booth 5. Tape. You'll feel it before you see it. You know that corner better than I do. I bought the building the way a guilty man wanders back to a church. It isn't penance if you hide it, but then I tucked it away anyway. Weak men justify, strong men write letters. I'm trying the second. People will make your life small because it makes their life safer. Don't let them. There is a ledger on the flash drive. It's boring until it is. You'll know when you see the dip in the graph. Every dip is someone's dinner missing. Stick a knife in that, twist. Elena folded the letter once, twice, with hands that weren't quite steady. She slipped the flash drive to Caldwell. There's a key at the diner, she said. Back in the SUV, the city looked different. Not bigger, not smaller, sharper. Caldwell typed while talking. We'll need to get to St. Bridget too. If he earmarked funds, they've been starving waiting for this. They turned onto her block. Diner's windows were fogged with winter and breath. Bodyguards posted at the corners made the morning news vans park across the street. Lena went straight to booth 5. She lifted the sugar caddy, ran her finger along the underside. Tape tugged, she pinched. A tiny key came free, wrapped in a strip of napkin. Gus hovered like a worried uncle. You look like you're about to open a portal. I might be. Her voice startled a laugh out of him he didn't expect. Under the booth, the plywood had a seam. Someone had unscrewed it long ago and screwed it back wrong, crooked. Lena wedged the knife from her apron into the seam and pried. The wood popped. Inside, an envelope as fat as a fist and a butcher paper bundle sat waiting. The envelope held a deed, the building title, the restaurant, the apartments above, signed, notarized, transferred to Everwest Holdings 3 weeks back. A little sticky note in Everett's handwriting on the deed said, that name was for a horse. It seemed funny at the time. The butcher paper bundle was heavier. She unwrapped it to reveal a stack of prepaid grocery cards and a laminated schedule titled Morning Routes with bus lines and addresses. The first stop listed was St. Bridget Shelter. The second was a senior center 2 best friends used to call the library because it was the only place warm enough to sit. Ava leaned in. What is that? Work, Lena said. By noon, the blog had it. By 2, the city knew the waitress at a corner diner was now the executor of a billionaire's breakfast charity and the building owner. By 4, Victoria had gone on television to talk about exploitation. She talked about her father's confusion, her heart. People online picked sides because that's what people do. At 5:30, Caldwell's flash drive cracked open a different kind of noise. On it, spreadsheets, line items, smooth until the dips. Money earmarked for St. Bridget rerouted to an LLC that owned a vineyard upstate. Payments labeled consulting fees on the same day care hours were cut at a community kitchen. Names, signatures, the boring part wasn't boring at all. Caldwell filed an injunction. The court scheduled an emergency hearing. Victoria hired more cameras. Grant did math on air to make numbers look compassionate. Lena wore her black pants and her hair up and sat in the back of a courtroom while Caldwell did the talking. He made it simple and then complicated and then simple again. He did not lose capacity. He lost patience, he said. He played the kitchen video. He held up the ledger. He made sure to say the names of places that missed meals while fees were paid. The other side brought a private investigator who held photos up like weapons. Lena carrying grocery bags home late at night. Lena counting cash at the register. Lena giving a man a hug at the bus stop. The implication was clear enough. Need makes you dangerous. Caldwell didn't let it breathe. She worked 2 jobs, he said. She hugged a neighbor whose wife died. If that's a crime, lock up this whole city. A judge with tired eyes and a plain voice asked Lena to approach. Ms. Park, did you know Mr. Miles was a billionaire when you served him breakfast? No, she said. Did you ask him for money? No. Did he offer you any? She thought of the $100 bill he'd tried to slip under the sugar the day the contractor sneered. He said, for putting me first. She'd slid it back under the check and told him not to do that again. He looked at her like she was confusing on purpose and then smiled like it hurt. No, she said again. Did you ever tell him what to do with his estate? Lena glanced at the screen frozen on Everett's face. He asked what the shelter needed, she answered. She answered because he asked. Eggs, milk, bus passes, she added. He wrote it down. The judge exhaled through his nose. Motions to remove Ms. Parker denied. The trust stands. Counsel for the estate, you will supervise disbursement. Counsel for the family, your client faces a forensic audit. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks. Grant swore under his breath. Victoria covered her face like a woman betrayed by a world that wouldn't listen to reason. No one in the gallery clapped. The law doesn't clap. It moves on. St. Bridget's director cried in a hallway when Caldwell told her the injunction lifted. We kept the coffee cheap because nobody wants to look at a budget and decide who doesn't get warmth, she said. He promised on a folded napkin. He kept it, Lena said. She handed over the first set of cards. Start tomorrow. They did. The morning after the hearing, the diner opened 45 minutes early. The first eggs hit the griddle before 6. Lena stood where she always stood. The bell over the door made the sound it always made. A teenage boy with a skateboard who usually counted his coins came in first. He glanced at the bodyguards and then at Lena, confused. "Is this still the place?" he asked. "It is," she said. "Sit wherever you want." Behind him, two old men in caps walked in like soldiers out of time, a mother with a toddler on her hip, a nurse off a night shift, a bus driver who left his route 10 minutes earlier than usual because he heard something was happening here. The corner booth sat empty. The heater hummed. Ava slid plates like a dealer. Gus moved faster than he had in years. The city tasted like salt and butter and a promise cooked into batter. Around 9, Caldwell slid onto a stool at the end of the counter, out of the way, phone on silent. "You need a board," he said, "because the world turns even during breakfast." "I have one," Lena said. "Gus, Sister Mariam from St. Bridget, and Mr. Flores, the bus driver. He knows mornings better than anyone. He knows who's alone." Caldwell frowned and then let it become a grin. "You're not going to make this easy," he said like a compliment. She poured him coffee. "Easy isn't on the breakfast menu." At the corner booth, she set a cup and poured hot water over a slice of lemon. "No honey. Habit can be a ritual and a goodbye." She didn't say anything out loud. She didn't need to. The day before the next hearing, a package arrived at the diner by courier. No return address. Inside, a thick stack of napkins bound with twine and a simple note on top, written in Everett's tired hand. "If they come for you, let them. Give them coffee. They hate that. Then keep going." Below the note, more napkins. Numbers again, not random. Roots, supplies, a way to keep the thing from turning into a statue. That afternoon, Victoria stood across the street with a reporter and said all the right words the wrong way. She talked about her father's legacy like it was a painting. The camera loved her, but it cut away to the diner crowd lining up with reusable bags. Grant ducked his head and sped past. His driver opened the door. It didn't matter. The people in line knew his face now. Not because of wealth, because of the dip in the graph. Caldwell sent a text. Audit found, consulting fees paid to a shell company, charges likely. He added, "You okay?" Lena didn't answer for a minute because she was lifting an elderly woman's walker over the step and propping the door with her hip. Then she typed, "We have pancakes. We're okay." The next hearing went faster. Paperwork has a way of deciding wars the news can't. The court removed Victoria and Grant from anything that could be touched or moved. The judge ordered restitution. Reporters said phrases like "fall from grace." It wasn't grace, it was gravity. On a raw, wet morning a week later, a man Lena had never seen before stood outside the diner in a hat that used to be nice and a coat that didn't fit. He held the door for everyone and didn't come in, and when the line thinned, he finally sat where the corner booth caught the warmth from the heater. He looked at the empty cup in front of him and at the lemon slice on the saucer. He touched it like it might burn. "You knew him?" Lena asked. The man nodded. "He didn't make the cup of tea a eulogy. He took it like it was hot water with lemon, which it was. He was my roommate for a month," the man said, "until he paid my rent without telling me and got me kicked out for making the landlord feel tricked. He said he was better at money than people. He wasn't wrong." She didn't ask for stories. "He gave one anyway. He said mornings were when you get to choose again," the man went on. "I thought that was a rich man's line. Maybe it was, but here I am. Here he was. Here they were. People came in and held doors longer than usual. Someone started a fundraiser without asking permission. Someone else showed up with eggs. A bus driver taped a paper on the wall with a list titled who to check on if they don't show. Tino from the dish pit brought a toolbox and fixed the wobble in booth 5 because a limp makes you feel old whether or not you are. By spring, the shelter's lights stayed on past dark. By summer, a second diner across town started its own morning routes and a third asked for guidance. "Don't make it a charity," Lena told them when they called. "Make it a table." Once late, when the rush had turned into a gentle stream and the streetlights flickered on, Caldwell sat and watched her refill cups and mark names on a worn notebook. "Do you ever regret not taking the 100? He asked, because he had known enough of men like Everett to understand the question behind the question. Lena slid a plate to a woman in scrubs who didn't have time to be grateful and didn't need to be. "Which 100? She said, and Caldwell let the smile happen again and dropped the subject. In the fall, they held a memorial, not because the city demanded it, because Sister Mariam said they should. People spoke who don't speak in front of microphones. A janitor from the courthouse. The teen with the skateboard now working the grill 1 day a week. Gus, who never cried in public, cried into his hands and then blamed the onions. On the counter at the end, next to the cake no one really wanted but ate anyway, Lena placed the cracked watch from the safety box. She set it to the time the first egg had hit the griddle the morning after the hearing. The watch didn't tick. It didn't need to. Time was moving without it. Grant didn't come. Victoria didn't either. They were busy with lawyers and statements and a life that had closed in around them without making room for air. That was their story. This was another one. The diner's door kept opening like doors do. The bell kept ringing. People kept kneading. That wasn't new. The new part was that it didn't matter who noticed. There were systems now. Morning routes on 3 bus lines, cards with names and not numbers, the kind of structural kindness that doesn't need a headline to work. On a Tuesday that looked like any other, a woman Lena had never seen before came in with a briefcase and a face that said she hated mornings. She slid a paper onto the counter. It wasn't a lawsuit, it was a check. Caldwell's note was clipped to it. For repairs, a good roof doesn't leak. A better one makes you forget that it might. Lena looked at the corner booth, at the heater humming, at the sugar caddy that sat forever a little crooked because of a strip of tape that had taken paint with it when she pulled the key free. She did not say anything like destiny or fate, because nobody needs that much weight at breakfast. She poured the woman coffee. "Do you want lemon?" she asked. The woman blinked, caught off guard. "Yes," she said, surprised by herself. The cup filled, a tiny normal thing, the kind that saves you without asking for credit. The red folder was gone. The bodyguards showed up less. Caldwell came by sometimes just to sit, a rare skill in his world. The story kept moving because mornings do. And every day before the doors opened, Lena put a slice of lemon on a saucer at booth 5 and set a napkin down carefully. Some days the napkin stayed clean. Some days she covered it with numbers, routes, names, a ledger of a different kind. Everett had left money. He had also left a map. She followed it. People ate. People were seen. The bell over the door did its small job over and over, the only sound in the city that didn't get old.